I came home from my volunteer shift at the hospital and saw something that stopped me cold. My kitchen pantry door had a shiny new padlock on it. I stood there for a moment, my keys still in my hand, staring at that lock. After 42 years as a nurse, I thought I'd seen everything. But this? In my own home? Let me back up. My name is Margaret, and I'm 67 years old. I retired from nursing 3 years ago, but I still volunteer at Portland General twice a week. It keeps me busy, gives me purpose. My husband Thomas passed away 5 years ago, and this house, this beautiful craftsman home in Northeast Portland, has been in my family for 3 generations. My parents left it to me, and every corner holds memories. I have 2 children. My daughter Rachel is a corporate lawyer in Seattle, always busy with cases and court appearances. My son Michael is 34, a startup founder who's been chasing the dream of making it big in tech for the past 6 years. 2 years ago, Michael got married to Jessica. She was sweet during the engagement, always complimenting my cooking, asking about family history, taking photos of the house for her Instagram. She called herself a wellness influencer and lifestyle blogger. I didn't fully understand what that meant, but she had over 50,000 followers, so I figured she was doing well. When they got married, they asked if they could stay with me temporarily. Michael's startup was in a critical funding phase, and they needed to save money. Jessica had just quit her part-time job at a yoga studio to focus on her content creation full-time. "Just 6 months, Mom," Michael promised. "Once we close this next round of funding, we'll get our own place." I said yes. Of course I said yes. They're my son and daughter-in-law. I had 3 bedrooms upstairs, and I was rattling around in this big house alone anyway. What's 6 months? That was 2 years ago. The first few months were fine. Jessica was polite, helpful even. She'd cook occasionally, always these elaborate health food dishes that she'd photograph from every angle before we ate. Michael worked long hours at his startup, often not coming home until 9 or 10 at night. But slowly, things started to change. It began with small things. Jessica rearranged my kitchen cabinets to be more intuitive. She replaced my regular coffee with some organic, fair trade brand that cost $40 a pound. She started buying special groceries and labeling them in the fridge with little sticky notes. Jessica's almond milk, Jessica's supplements, Jessica's meal prep. I said nothing. I just smiled. Then she started taking over the living room for her content creation. She'd spend hours setting up ring lights, filming herself doing yoga poses, talking about wellness and self-care. I'd come home from the hospital, tired and ready to sit in my favorite chair and read, only to find her in the middle of filming. "Margaret, I need you to be quiet for just 10 more minutes," she'd whisper urgently. I'm right in the middle of a flow. I'd nod and head upstairs to my bedroom. The real shift happened about 6 months in. Jessica announced she was transforming my dining room into her content studio. She moved out my grandmother's antique dining table, the one where I'd hosted Thanksgiving dinners for 30 years, and replaced it with a white backdrop, professional lighting, and shelving units displaying her wellness products. "This is temporary," she said, not looking at me as she directed Michael to carry my grandmother's table to the garage. "Just until we move out." I watched them carry that table away, and something inside me cracked. But I still said nothing. I just smiled. Michael stopped making eye contact with me around then. He'd come home, kiss Jessica, ask about her day, her follower count, her brand partnerships. He barely asked about mine. When I tried to tell him about a patient I'd met at the hospital, a World War II veteran with incredible stories, he'd nod absently and turn back to his laptop. "That's great, Mom. Hey, Jess, did you see that email from the marketing agency?" A year passed, then 18 months. Rachel called me every Sunday, like clockwork. I kept telling her everything was fine. The truth is, I was embarrassed. How do you tell your successful daughter that you've become a stranger in your own home? But Rachel's sharp. She always has been. "Mom, you sound tired," she said one Sunday. "Are you okay? How's it going with Michael and Jessica?" "Oh, it's fine, honey. They're just busy building their lives." "It's been over a year, Mom. When are they moving out?" "Soon, I'm sure. Michael's startup is doing well." There was a long pause. "Mom, I'm looking at Jessica's Instagram right now. She just posted a photo with the caption, 'My kitchen,' and it's your kitchen. Your stove, your cabinets, even your recipe box from Grandma sitting on the counter." My stomach dropped. She probably just meant, "And last week she posted about my home office with photos of Dad's old study. Mom, what's going on?" That's when I started paying closer attention. Jessica was posting daily. Photos of her home, her kitchen, her garden, her reading nook. Every single location was somewhere in my house. She never mentioned that she lived with her mother-in-law. Her followers thought she owned this beautiful Portland craftsman, that she decorated it herself, that this was all part of her curated wellness lifestyle. I felt something harden in my chest. But still, I said nothing. I just smiled. Then came the pantry lock. I stood there staring at it for a full minute before Jessica came down the stairs, yoga mat under her arm, green smoothie in hand. "Oh, Margaret, good. You're home," she said breezily. "I got a lock for the pantry. I'm storing all my supplements and wellness products in there, and some of them are really expensive. I need my own space for my inventory." My voice came out calm. "That's my pantry, Jessica." "Well, technically it's Michael's pantry too, and he said it was fine." She took a sip of her smoothie. "We're paying rent after all." They weren't paying rent. They hadn't paid me a single dollar in 2 years. I paid the mortgage, the utilities, the property taxes, the groceries, everything. But I didn't say that. I just smiled. "Actually, Margaret, Michael wanted me to ask you something," Jessica continued. "Could you maybe stay upstairs tonight? I have some yoga clients coming over for a private session, and we need the whole downstairs for the proper energy flow." I looked at her. Really looked at her. She was wearing Lululemon head to toe, probably $800 worth of athleisure. Her nails were freshly done, gel manicure with tiny gold flakes. She held a $400 hydro flask covered in trendy stickers. Of course, I heard myself say, "Whatever you need." That night, I lay in my bedroom, my own bedroom, in my own house, and listened to voices and music floating up from downstairs. I pulled out my phone and did something I hadn't done in months. I really looked at Jessica's Instagram. She had 78,000 followers now. Her bio said wellness coach, homemaker, living my best life in Portland. I scrolled through her posts. Hundreds of them, dating back 2 years. Every single one featured some part of my house. My kitchen, my living room, my garden that Thomas and I had planted together 20 years ago. She'd even posted photos of herself in my master bedroom, which she'd apparently entered while I was at the hospital. One post from 3 weeks ago showed her lounging on my bed with the caption, "Sunday morning peace in my sanctuary. Remember, your bedroom should be your safe space, your place of rest and rejuvenation." My hands were shaking. Then I saw the comments. Hundreds of them, asking where she got her furniture, her decor, her amazing vintage pieces. Jessica replied to many, "Thanks, babe. I love mixing vintage finds with modern touches. These antiques have been in my family forever. I'm so blessed to have this beautiful space. My grandmother's furniture, my family heirlooms, my space." I took screenshots. I don't know why. Nursing instinct, maybe. Always document, always have evidence. The next morning I came downstairs to find Jessica filming in the kitchen. She had set up her ring light and was talking to her phone about morning routines. "And this is my kitchen, where I make all my nourishing breakfasts," she was saying. "I love how the morning light comes through these original windows." "Jessica," I interrupted gently. She spun around, annoyed. "Margaret, I'm filming." "I know. I just wanted to let you know I'm heading to the hospital for my volunteer shift." "Okay, great, perfect. Can you be extra quiet when you come back? I'm filming all morning." I nodded and left. At the hospital, I ran into Dr. Patricia Chen, an old colleague who'd retired the same year as me. We grabbed coffee in the cafeteria. "Margaret, you look exhausted," she said. "Everything okay?" I found myself telling her everything. The whole story spilled out: Michael, Jessica, the pantry lock, the Instagram posts, the 2 years of slowly being pushed to the margins of my own life. Patricia listened without interrupting, her face growing more concerned. "Margaret," she said finally, "that's elder abuse." I flinched. "Oh no, it's not that serious, they're not hurting me." Financial abuse is still abuse. Emotional manipulation is abuse. They're using your home, your resources, your possessions, and giving you nothing in return while making you feel like a guest in your own house. She leaned forward. "Honey, when was the last time you felt comfortable in your own living room?" I couldn't remember. "You need to call Rachel," Patricia said firmly. "And you need to start documenting everything. Financial records, the Instagram posts, everything. I've seen this before, Margaret. It doesn't get better on its own." That afternoon, instead of going home, I went to the public library. I printed out every single Instagram post Jessica had ever made featuring my house. It was 67 pages. Then I called Rachel. Mom? What's wrong? You never call on a weekday. Rachel, honey, I need to talk to you about something. 2 hours later, I told her everything. Rachel was silent for a long moment after I finished. Mom, she said, her lawyer voice fully activated, I'm coming down this weekend. Don't tell Michael or Jessica. And Mom, don't throw away any bills or financial documents. In fact, start making copies of everything. That Friday, Rachel drove down from Seattle. We agreed she'd stay at a hotel and come to the house Saturday morning when Michael and Jessica would be home. Saturday morning, I was in the kitchen making coffee when Rachel's car pulled into the driveway. Jessica was in the living room, setting up for another filming session. Michael was at the dining room table, the new one Jessica had bought to replace my grandmother's, working on his laptop. The doorbell rang. I'll get it, I said quickly. Rachel stood on my porch in her power suit, briefcase in hand, looking every inch the corporate attorney. Behind her professional smile, I could see fury in her eyes. Hi, Mom, she said loudly enough for everyone to hear. Surprise. I had a few days off and thought I'd visit. Michael appeared in the hallway, surprised. Rachel, hey, what are you doing here? Visiting my mother. Is that okay, or do I need permission? Jessica came out from the living room, yoga mat in hand. Rachel, oh my gosh, we didn't know you were coming. This is bad timing, I have content to film today. Rachel smiled coolly. In my mother's house? I'm sure you can work around it. The temperature in the room dropped 10 degrees. Actually, Rachel said, setting her briefcase down, I'm glad you're both here. We need to have a family meeting. Michael looked confused. About what? About the fact that you've been living in Mom's house for 2 years, haven't paid a single dollar in rent or utilities, and are treating her like a tenant in her own home. Jessica's face flushed. That's not, we've been helping out. Really? Rachel pulled out a folder from her briefcase. Because I have copies of Mom's bank statements for the past 24 months. Mortgage. Mom. Property taxes. Mom. Utilities. Mom. Groceries. Mom. Home repairs. Mom. I don't see a single deposit from either of you. Michael stood up. Rachel, that's not fair. My startup. Your startup that still hasn't made a profit after 6 years? Rachel's voice was sharp. Meanwhile, Jessica, I've been looking at your Instagram. 78,000 followers, right? And you're a wellness coach charging $300 for private yoga sessions? Jessica went pale. Rachel pulled out more papers. Here are printouts of 67 Instagram posts where you claim to own this house. My kitchen, my living room, my sanctuary. You've built your entire influencer brand on pretending to own property that belongs to my mother. I never said I owned. You certainly implied it, and your followers believe it. Some of them even commented asking if you'd give home tours for a fee, and you said maybe in the future. Rachel's eyes were cold. Were you planning to charge people to tour my mother's house? The silence was deafening. And then there's this, Rachel continued, pulling out another document. I did some digging. Jessica, you're $45,000 in credit card debt. That wellness lifestyle you're selling, it's bought on credit, and you're behind on payments. Jessica's eyes filled with tears. You had no right. I had every right. My mother is being exploited, and I'm her daughter. Did you think she'd never find out? Did you think you could just, what? Live here forever? Pretend this was your house until she died, and you could convince Michael he inherited it? Rachel, that's enough, Michael said, but his voice was weak. No, it's not enough. Rachel turned to him. Michael, did you know Jessica told her followers last month that she inherited this house from her grandmother? I have the screenshot. Your wife is claiming Mom's family heirloom grandma and grandpa's house as her own inheritance. Michael looked at Jessica, shocked. Jess, is that true? Jessica was crying now, mascara running down her face. It wasn't like that, I was just, my followers expect a certain lifestyle. The algorithm rewards aspiration. I needed the content. You needed my mother's house for content, Rachel finished. And you paid her back by locking her out of her own pantry. I'd been quiet this whole time, watching. But now I spoke. Jessica, I want you to know something. My voice was steady, calm. The voice I used in the ICU when things got critical and someone needed to stay clear-headed. For 2 years, I've watched you take over my home, piece by piece. I've listened to you tell me to be quiet, to stay upstairs, to stay out of your way. I've seen you erase me from my own life and replace me with your Instagram aesthetic. She was sobbing now, but I continued. I saw you post photos from my bedroom. I saw you sell my late husband's tools at a yard sale last month without asking me. Yes, I saw that. I saw you tell your followers that my grandmother's china cabinet, which has been in my family since 1947, was a lucky vintage find. I've watched you treat me like I'm invisible, like I'm an inconvenience, like this is your house and I'm the guest. Michael had his head in his hands. But I want you to know I didn't stay quiet because I'm weak. I looked directly at Jessica. I stayed quiet because I'm a mother, because I wanted to give my son the benefit of the doubt, because I wanted to believe he'd remember who raised him and taught him about respect and integrity. I stayed quiet because I was giving you both the chance to do the right thing on your own. I pulled out my own folder, one I'd been compiling for 3 weeks with Patricia's help. But you didn't. So here's what's going to happen now. I opened the folder. I've documented every expense for this house over the past 2 years. The total comes to $68,000. Mortgage, taxes, utilities, repairs, groceries, everything. If you were renting a house this size in Portland, you'd be paying at least $3,000 a month. Over 2 years, that's $72,000 in fair market rent, not including utilities. Jessica's face had gone from red to white. You have 2 choices, I said. Choice 1, you can move out within 30 days. You can take down every Instagram post featuring my home or correctly caption them as my mother-in-law's house where we lived rent-free. You can return every item of mine you've sold or given away, or reimburse me for their value. You can both go to financial counseling and therapy together and separately. If you do all of this, we can work on rebuilding our relationship. We can start over. And choice 2? Michael asked quietly. Choice 2. I pursue legal action. Rachel will file a formal eviction notice and will take you to small claims court for back rent and damages. Jessica, I'll also report your Instagram account for fraud since you've been soliciting business based on false pretenses. Some of your followers have paid you for advice on creating a beautiful home that isn't even yours. The room was silent except for Jessica's crying. Michael finally spoke. Mom, I don't know what to say. I know you don't. That's part of the problem. I felt tears in my own eyes now. Michael, when did you stop seeing me? When did I become just furniture to you? Background noise in your life? I didn't mean. You did mean. Maybe not consciously, but you did. You let Jessica erase me from my own home because it was easier than standing up to her. You let her treat me like a maid, a tenant, an obstacle. You stopped asking about my day, my life, my feelings. When was the last time you asked me how I was doing? Really asked? Michael was crying now, too. I'm sorry. God, Mom, I'm so sorry. I know you are. You can return every item of mine you've sold or given away, or reimburse me for their value. You can both go to financial counseling and therapy together and separately. If you do all of this, we can work on rebuilding our relationship. We can start over. And choice 2? Michael asked quietly. Choice 2. I pursue legal action. Rachel will file a formal eviction notice and will take you to small claims court for back rent and damages. She wiped her eyes. I choose option 1. I'll do whatever it takes. Therapy, financial counseling, moving out, fixing the Instagram stuff. All of it. Michael nodded. Me too. Option 1. And Mom? I'm going to do more than that. I'm going to figure out how to be your son again. The son you raised. The one who knew better than this. Rachel looked at me. I looked back at her and saw my own strength reflected there. Okay, I said. You have 30 days. I'll send you a list of items that need to be returned or paid for. I want a written apology, a real one, not a performative Instagram post. I want weekly check-ins with both of you about therapy progress. And I want my house back. My kitchen, my living room, my dining room, my space. You'll have it, Michael said. I promise. 3 weeks later, they moved into a modest apartment in Southeast Portland. Jessica took down or corrected every Instagram post. She even made a public statement acknowledging that she'd been fortunate to live with family and had misrepresented her living situation to her followers. She lost about 15,000 followers, but the ones who stayed appreciated her honesty. Michael's startup actually did get funding a month after they moved out. Not millions, but enough for a salary and runway. He admitted to me later that living rent-free had made him lazy, less hungry. Having real bills motivated him. They both started therapy. Jessica got help for her spending addiction and the underlying anxiety that drove it. Michael worked through his conflict avoidance and his relationship with me. And me? I got my house back. I got my life back. Rachel moved back to Portland 6 months later, taking a position with a firm here. She didn't move in with me, we'd both learned our lesson about boundaries, but she comes over for dinner every Sunday. Michael and Jessica join us sometimes, carefully, respectfully, rebuilding trust one meal at a time. Last week, Jessica asked if she could come over and apologize one more time. We sat in my living room, with my furniture back where it belonged, and she cried and told me how lost she'd been. I saw your house, your life, your history, and I wanted it to be mine, she said. I wanted the followers to see me as someone who had it all together, someone successful and established. I didn't even see you as a person anymore, Margaret. You were just in the way of my image. I know, I said, but you see me now. I do. And I'm so sorry. I took her hand. Jessica, I'm not going to lie and say what you did was okay. It wasn't. You hurt me deeply, but I also understand that you were hurting too. That doesn't excuse it, but it helps me understand it. She nodded, tears streaming down her face. Here's what I've learned, I told her. I'm 67 years old. I've been a daughter, a wife, a mother, a nurse. I've taken care of people my whole life. And somewhere along the way, I forgot that taking care of people doesn't mean disappearing. It doesn't mean becoming invisible. It doesn't mean sacrificing myself until there's nothing left. I smiled at her. You and Michael taught me something important. You taught me that I still matter, that my space matters, that my life matters, and that sometimes the kindest thing you can do for someone is hold them accountable. Jessica hugged me then, and I let her. The lock is gone from my pantry now. In fact, there are no locks in my house anymore except the ones on the outside doors. My grandmother's furniture is back in the dining room. My bedroom is mine again. My kitchen is where I cook the recipes my mother taught me, not where someone films content about wellness routines they can't afford. Michael called me yesterday just to ask how I was doing. Not because he needed something, not because he was checking a box, just because he wanted to know. I'm good, honey, I told him. I'm really good. And for the first time in 2 years, I meant it. I learned something important through all of this. Kindness doesn't mean weakness. Patience doesn't mean being a doormat. And sometimes, the most loving thing you can do is refuse to disappear. I didn't lose my son. I taught him how to be a better man. I didn't lose my daughter-in-law. I taught her how to be honest. And I didn't lose myself. I found myself again. My name is Margaret. I'm 67 years old. I'm a retired nurse, a mother, a grandmother of none yet, but maybe someday. I live in a beautiful craftsman house in Portland that my grandparents built and my parents loved, and my husband and I filled with memories. And it's mine. All mine. Every corner, every room, every precious inch. I smile now because I'm happy, not because I'm keeping quiet. And that makes all the difference.